of law enforcement agencies are struggling with low morale, recruitment challenges, and a tarnished reputation. If you're ready to transform your agency, to strengthen your team, and build trust in your community, we're here to help. The Elevate Your Call to Service podcast shares a revolutionary approach to leadership development. Join us and discover how to elevate your leadership journey and your agency to new heights of excellence.
We're your hosts, Michael and Kathy McIntosh. Mike is a retired sheriff and current bureau chief in the Denver metro area with nearly 40 years of law enforcement experience.
Kathy is a business and branding expert with a unique perspective on the human side of law enforcement.
Together, we share a powerful blend of practical experience and insightful roadmaps to elevate your call to service. Welcome back. When your team feels disconnected or unmotivated, the problem isn't more management, it's better leadership. And that's how you start to build trust and improve morale and achieve results. Sometimes leaders feel like no matter how many boxes they check or schedules they set, the team still feels disconnected, like everyone's not moving in the same direction. That can lead to burnout. It can lead to a toxic relationship. And if you're a leader who's feeling that way, you need to know, first of all, of course, you're not alone. But solving that problem might not be about what you're doing. It might be about what you're missing. So we're going to talk today about the difference between leadership and management. One thing I'd like to ask you, Mike, is how is it that the difference between leadership and management can ripple throughout an agency?
Well, I think that one of the things that happens quickly is we get involved in our day-to-day task, and there's always things that need to be done. Especially whether you're in the patrol car, whether you're the sergeant, the watch commander, things need to be done, and they need to be done on a daily basis. So we've always got a lot of tasks that we need to do, different projects that we might be working on, and those start to invade our ability really to focus on the leadership aspect of that as well. We get focused on those tasks and on those projects, and we start to forget about our people, and that starts small. And you get that little disconnect, and the people that are working for you start to feel that disconnect a little bit, and that's what really starts to ripple. Because if you don't catch that quickly and bring that back to where we're focusing on our people more than we're focusing on our people more than we do on our task. That's when you start to lose that. And that ripple effect, just like throwing a little stone in the water, you watch that ripple, and it really starts to permeate on a team, on a shift, and can really start to permeate on a whole division if you are not careful.
Absolutely. And in today's episode, we're going to break down some of the critical differences between managing and leading, and explore why both are so very, very important. So tell me, what is management?
Well, management really is, as we first started to talk in this conversation, it's really about completing those tasks, those projects that come up. Management is ensuring that our folks are resourced, that they're getting to work on time, that they have cars to drive, that they're uniforms are the way that they need to be, that the community is requesting that we be in a certain place at a certain time. So really it's just managing all of those things on a daily basis, prioritizing what needs to go first, and how we get our resources to where they need to be. That is in concert with then leadership, and that's the other side of, in law enforcement, what we really need to be focused on.
Because the other side of the coin, right, is leadership.
Because that's our greatest asset, our people. They're the ones that are going to be accomplishing all of those things. We have to have them, and we have to ensure that we're taking the time to lead them well so that they can accomplish and manage the things that need to be managed on a daily basis. basis.
So leadership is more about guiding the people more than the tasks, right? And one of the things that you and I talk about a lot, and we'll unpack an episode in the near future, I believe, is setting that clear vision and helping your people know exactly what their role is, why it's important, and what the destination is, where we're headed as a team.
Right.
Because if we don't know where we're going, we're never going to get there. And if we don't all know that we're heading to a particular destination, we could be traveling in a whole bunch of different directions. So leadership is keeping everyone on that same page, making sure everyone's really marching to the beat of the same drummer, and understanding how critical and important their individual contribution is to the tasks that we're trying to complete.
Right. And you really hit the nail on the head when you said that leadership is really about people and management is really about the task. And we've said before, if you're not leading people, all you're doing is managing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really important that we remember that human, that people, we like to call it peopleship aspect of our role in an organization, if we're in a leadership position.
So if you have good leadership, let's kind of paint that picture of how that success can look like when there's a nice balance between management and leadership going on, because you can't have one without the other, right? Both are critical pieces of running an organization, but sometimes it gets way out of whack and way out of balance, and people start to focus so much more on achieving the tasks and checking the boxes that they forget to care for their people and do the leadership side of things. So in a perfect world, when leadership and management are well balanced, what does that look like in a law enforcement world?
Yeah, and I think that, our audience is by and large going to be law enforcement. The beautiful thing about the topic that we're discussing is it's the same, whether you're in business, whether you're running a nonprofit, or whether you're running law enforcement teams, right? Good quality leadership is first of all, it's recognizable. The people that are working with you and the people around you will immediately recognize if you are a good leader. I've had an opportunity to be in leadership courses before, and one of the things that we always talk about is what are the characteristics and what are the qualities and what is it that we're looking for in a good leader, and we all kind of know what that is. Where we've got to focus is the application of that. And so many times in our hurry to get things done, we stop, or we start to lose that knowledge of, or that utilization of management. Only we stop to utilize the leadership through that management. We can manage well. We know what the task is and what we've got to get done, but we forget the leadership aspect of that. How we influence people, and a lot of folks will tell you that leadership is influence. So it's influencing your people to do things that you would like them to do. So it's important that we are always intentional about going back to that. And I think that if we're not intentional, then we're not going to utilize our leadership skills as we go through that. So good leadership looks like casting that very clear vision, right? This is what we're trying to accomplish. And here's the expectations. Here's the guardrails. Here's the parameters around how it is that we're going to get that done. But then it's also important to understand that those that are doing it, they probably know how to do that better, especially from somebody in my position, know how to do that better than I do. I know what it is that I want accomplished, but good leaders empower others to accomplish it within those set parameters. So as long as I communicate a good vision, it's a clear vision, and I communicate the expectations, then the team can accomplish those because they're very clear on what the vision is and what it is that we're trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to just and this is where you start to get into micromanagement. It's very difficult to just say, I want you to complete this task and then come back and I'll tell you what the next step in the process is. Where we want to get to is being able to, as a leader, paint that picture of where it is that we want to go, what the expectations are. Here's the tools, the resources that you have, and empower them to do what it is that you would like them to do.
Mm-hmm. So you are in the top of the leadership structure in your current position, and what you're saying is that you can cast the vision and rely then on some of your captains, your lieutenants, even your sergeants then to motivate and inspire their team and share that vision, and then also be in charge of managing the tasks that go along with accomplishing that vision.
Right.
So the higher up you get, oftentimes you have a little bit less impact on management, more impact on vision, and it starts to spread out in a different dynamic than it did when you were a sergeant. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
But
yeah.
if you were to look at the sergeant's role, maybe that looks like a sergeant who doesn't just say what the daily assignments are going to be, but also takes the time to let the team know, hey, I care about you, I care about your family. You know, let's just have some time to spend together and talk together. But also, he's mentoring young officers. She's creating a sense of shared purpose, and pretty soon that team starts to build and that trust starts to adhere, just like we talked about in our earlier episode. We're not even just talking about setting expectations. We're talking about guiding people to meet them and exceed those expectations so that they can respond to their team, they can respond to their peers, they can respond to their leaders, and they can respond to their community in a way that helps people know we're here for you. We have the servant's heart that we need to complete this vision and accomplish it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got an incredible story that we've talked through multiple times. A situation where the SWAT team commander and your SWAT team leader, you had an A team and a B team on your SWAT team, that your team leader disagreed on something. And this was a high stress, life or death type of a situation. You're going to tell a story where there's two different people performing a management role and a leadership role. And I just want to be clear that this also can break down to where one person can be wearing both of those management and leadership hats.
Oh, sure.
But in the story that you're going to share, it's divided into two different people. But
right.
Why don't you set the stage for us and tell us, kind of what happened and how things translated and why the response from the team members was different to each one of those leaders.
Yeah, it was, in fact, in the 90s. It was in 1992. I was fairly new to the SWAT team. I'd been on the SWAT team for a little over a year at that time. And I was one of the initial responders on this radio call. A couple of people had been shot. And the person that was the suspect was kind of barricaded in, believe it or not, a 1968 school bus in a campground. So it made the situation pretty difficult to be able to use what our normal tactics would be if somebody is in a house. So we really had to kind of lock that situation down, evacuate everybody out of this campground and beyond to make sure that folks were safe, get everybody out of there, and then really start to attack the problem, which was we've got a man that's barricaded and shooting from a bus that is pretty fortified. And if anybody looked at the way that they made things in the 60s, a lot of fortification, very solid
Metal.
steel,
Mm-hmm.
very hard to penetrate. And he had done other things to this bus to be able to barricade and fortify it even more, and truly had the advantage in our response to us trying to be able to assault that bus. That was ultimately where our SWAT team commander wanted us to get to. He was a lieutenant in the organization. He was the commander of the SWAT team. And then the structure of the SWAT team at that time was then he had 2 team leaders. We're into this situation for a while, and he had come on the radio and said that we were going to assault the bus, and he gave us a time frame. I want to say it was 30, 45 minutes. We are going to be assaulting the bus. And my team leader just kind of looked at me and said, no, we're not. Because, the first thought that went through my mind and a lot of the team's mind when he said that was, I don't know how we're going to be able to do that and be successful, be able to do that without probably the loss of life from a law enforcement perspective. And still, I don't know how we're going to be able to get that guy out of the bus.
Mm-hmm. So I just want to stop you right here and just emphasize the management side of things, because the team leader was looking at a task. We've got a task to do. It's to get this threat stopped. And in 45 minutes time, this is what we're going to do. And the team leader, who was a sergeant, I believe,
he was, yeah.
and probably more tactically sound at that time, wasn't necessarily being defiant and saying, we're going to disobey these orders. It was more like, stay calm. I'm going to go talk to the team leader.
To the team commander. Yes.
Pause. Right.
Yep. Just hold everything. I'm going to go back. We're going to have a conversation and come up with our next course of action, mm-hmm. and the things that we need to be able to accomplish, because they had not had that conversation yet. Mm-hmm. So that put the team at ease, knowing because of where the team dynamic at the time, we had full faith and confidence in our team leader. But quite honestly, the SWAT team commander had kind of had a reputation of kind of overreacting, mm-hmm. Not necessarily thinking things through completely. Mm-hmm. And we all knew that on the team. And so obviously that was concerning when he first said that, but just that communication, and he was, to your point, he was not being defiant. It was like, no, not yet. Let me go talk to the team commander, and we'll get this resolved.
Mm-hmm. You have to tell us how the story ends. You can't leave us quite hanging just like this.
Well, as you can imagine, it took a while for us, and we tried different options of deploying gas. In the SWAT world at the time, there wasn't really explosive breach opportunities. There were not the options available to mm-hmm. us then that are now. Ultimately, we were able to talk him out of the bus, to come out of the bus, and we then did not have to assault the bus, mm-hmm. Which meant that the team was completely safe in this this situation.
Guy was taken care of, threat was eliminated, yes. and all the team members were safe. And the leader, the team leader versus the team commander, was level-headed. He knew the vision more than he knew the task, and the vision was to keep everyone safe.
Right.
Let's pause. Let's rethink. Let's get on the same page. Yeah. Great leadership demonstration. Obviously, there could have been horrendous consequences to a situation like that, and obviously, in law enforcement, often we're talking about life and death situations, yes. and we have to have leadership roles versus just looking at management and checking boxes and taking care of tasks. So outside of physical harm and life and death, let's look at some of the other consequences that might come when we over focus on management.
Yeah, when we over focus on management and all we're doing is focusing on getting the task done, I've seen time and time again where it can create a burnout. People, they don't feel appreciated. They're coming into work. They're kind of under demand to get things done. A lot of times this might happen when there's short staffing situations. You start to get more people calling in sick. It just starts to have, as we discussed, a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. And burnout is huge. That starts to then create distrust. It also starts to create division. And pretty soon you're looking at a team, a unit, maybe even an entire division that has very low morale. And if you don't get on top of that, you're going to start losing members either to retirements, to other organizations, mm-hmm. or completely different professions.
I just want to restate one more time that we need both roles. We need management, we need leadership, and reiterate that management is more about tasks and structures and frameworks and that kind of thing. Leadership is about people. It's about vision. It's about mission. It's about keeping everyone on the same page and really building and cementing teams. There is a huge amount of trust and camaraderie and loyalty that can be built under a good leader that is absent when someone is task-driven and task-focused. The key is finding the balance between those, and it's always a moving target. It's not ever something, I don't think, we can ever do perfectly. We just have to strive to do our very best and make sure that those scales are balanced. Would you agree?
I would, and I think that there are, as you lead through it, there's sometimes that you start to manage more than you are leading, and sometimes that's not intentional, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. It starts to happen. So I think it's important just to realize some of those key factors or things that will start to pop up that will give you that mindset that wait a minute, I need to go back and check and make sure that we're still leading well through this. And most of the time you'll find I've misstepped in a place or two, and you've got to get that back on track. Mm-hmm. And as we discussed, some of the first signs that you'll see is burnout or some sick call that happens more often than it was before, or even retention problems mm-hmm. within the organization. Sometimes people don't want to work on your team. So mm-hmm. shift bid, you lose a lot of your team because you're more focused on managing tasks than you are leading people. And you hit it perfectly. It's an and. Mm-hmm. It's a both. We have to do both. I think that the default starts to happen to where it's just more management than it is leadership. And our experience is if you do it the other way, if your default is always leadership and then manage, through leadership you're managing, you're going to be a lot more successful in your organization. And we've, throughout my career, I've seen great examples of law enforcement leaders that have mastered both well. And then I've seen examples of leaders who are very poor at doing that. And, as we've talked about reputations before, folks start to get a reputation.
For sure. For sure. My personal propensity is to be a lot more task-oriented than people-oriented. I want to get things done. I want to get it knocked out. I want to do it well. I want to do it with excellence. And so for me, I've badly damaged some relationships with people that I dearly loved and admired because of that propensity. So it can cost more than even just whether or not you get a task done or whether or not everyone's on the same page. It can cost you relationships. It can cost you friendships. So there's some caution there to be
right,
as balanced as you possibly can be, and know that people are an important, valuable, irreplaceable part of the equation. And
Yeah.
we need each other very much.
We do.
As we recap this episode, as you look at what leaders could do this week to do a better job of balancing the roles of leadership and management, what would you say?
I think that it all begins with just making sure that you're focusing on your people. Again, just take the extra 5 to 10 minutes, let them know that you're there, and be available for them. I think that availability is so huge in leadership. If you're available for somebody, they're going to start to see that they can utilize that availability, and it's going to start going a long ways. And then, I think it's so important to recognize those that are on our team for the work that's being done. There's always this dichotomy between that's what we pay you to do. Yeah, good job for doing what we pay you to do, right? And sometimes that's leaders' defaults or supervisors' default is, we pay you to do that. Oh, okay. If you want people to do those things well, then recognize when they do a good job. I like to send people, emails and say, hey, great job on that pursuit that you did last night, or the foot chase that you were in, or the criminal trespass that you solved. Or is that their job? Well, yeah. You know what? But they did a great job, and they executed that well. The other piece of that is they could have also ignored some of the things that were in front of them because they were being proactive, and they were able to solve that crime because they were proactive. And most of the time, you're going to see the people are going to be proactive when they get appreciated for doing that. If they're not appreciated for doing that, and somebody that's not proactive is getting the same amount of money that they are and the same benefits that they are, and they're not doing anything, and you're out there, really busting it and trying to develop a good reputation for yourself, sometimes that's tough when that's not acknowledged. So just acknowledge that. And then the other thing I would say is just listen, hear what it is that's going on. Be somebody who catches in being intentional in listening to people, that catches that something might be a little off tonight, or that something great is going on in their personal life, and celebrate that with them. But you're not going to know any of those things if you don't take the time to proactively listen to to your troops.
Excellent. Excellent. Remember, problems aren't always solved by more management. Sometimes they're solved by more leadership. And again, that's how we build trust, improve morale, and achieve results.
Yeah, good stuff.
Ready to build a stronger team, improve your reputation, strengthen officer safety, and recruit top talent? Visit us at leleaders.com and schedule a call with us today. We'd love to discuss how our coaching programs, workshops, and keynote addresses can help you build proactive leaders in a reactive profession.
In the meantime, if you like what you've heard today, we'd love your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.